I'm Willow Holt, 31, freelance fashion designer and stylist in Asheville. After 8 brutal years of non-stop gigs, late-night sketches, and skipping every vacation, I finally bought my 2-bedroom Mountain View condo for $280,000. The second I slid the key in the door, clicked open to my future. That same night, my phone buzzed. Dad's voice was, "Ice Willow, hand the condo over to Sawyer. He just split with his girlfriend and needs a place now." Mom chimed in, "You're creative. You can crash anywhere." I said no. Dad fired back, "Then you're cut from the will done." Before I reveal how I exposed their perfect son's secret stash of lies and sold off family treasures, drop a comment with where you're watching from. And if your family ever tried to snatch what you bled 8 years for, smash like and subscribe right now to see how this ends. The next morning, I sat on the new couch with coffee in hand, staring at the mountain fog rolling in. I graduated fashion school at 23 with $30,000 in student loans hanging over me, and I swore I would handle it alone. My first freelance gig came from a tiny Asheville bridal boutique that needed mood boards for runway knockoffs. They paid $200 per board, barely covering thread and printer ink. I layered on stylist shifts at 3 local shops, juggling fittings for prom queens and boutique owners who wanted Instagram-worthy displays. 12-hour days turned into 14 when I stayed late to alter hems under fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry bees. I sketched collections until my eyes burned, emailed cold pitches to 30 brands a week, and built a portfolio from scratch while living in a cramped shared apartment for $600 a month. The walls were thin, the fridge hummed nonstop, and my bedroom doubled as a sewing studio. Meals were simple: rice, beans, frozen veggies on sale, whatever kept me going without dipping into savings. I sewed samples on a second-hand Singer machine I bought at a yard sale for $50, turning down happy hours, weekend trips, even coffee runs to stack every dollar. Fabric swatches piled up on my desk, pins scattered like confetti, and I learned to hem in the dark during power outages. Meanwhile, my parents covered $70,000 for my younger brother Sawyer's business degree without him lifting a finger for extra cash. They surprised him with a Jeep Wrangler on his 21st birthday, matte black with custom rims that cost more than my first year's rent. When he turned 24, they bought him a downtown Asheville condo, outright sleek loft, exposed brick, the kind of place influencers drool over. He never worried about bills, side hustles, or loan statements. Everything landed in his lap like it was his birthright. My older sister Ivy, the lawyer who always saw through the favoritism, called me one evening after a 12-hour deposition. She had dug into some public records out of curiosity and spilled the details over speakerphone while I folded laundry. Sawyer sold that downtown condo for $150,000 about 2 years back then, blew the whole amount on designer clothes trips to Miami, and whatever else caught his eye. She rattled off specifics: $5,000 on a single weekend in South Beach, another $8,000 on a watch that matched his new sneakers. No investments, no emergency fund, just gone. Ivy warned me he had been crashing with friends ever since, hopping from couch to couch. But our parents kept sending him money under the table: $2,000 here, $1,000 there, always for groceries or car maintenance. I never asked for a dime from them, not once. My loans got paid off slowly through sheer grind: extra styling gigs for weddings, pop-up sample sales, even altering thrift store finds for resale online. I opened a high-yield savings account the day I got my first big check, watching the balance crawl upward like a slow-burning fuse. Client referrals trickled in, then poured. I designed a capsule collection for a local festival that sold out in 2 hours. The rest went straight into that account. After 8 solid years, I had enough saved to put down on this Mountain View place, borrowing $100,000 more from the bank with a $1,500 monthly payment that fit my budget like a custom seam. It was mine, no handouts, no strings, no golden child exceptions. Quinn, my best friend from fashion school, who now styles photo shoots around town, FaceTimed me that afternoon while I unpacked boxes of fabric bolts and pattern paper. Her face lit up the screen as she spun her phone to show her own messy studio mannequins draped in half-finished gowns, mood boards exploding with color. This condo is insane. That mountain view screams runway vibes, you earned every square foot, girl. We laughed about old all-nighters cramming for critiques the time we pulled an all-nighter to finish a 20-piece lineup on Red Bull and sheer panic. She promised to bring wine soon, maybe even help me hang the mood board I'd been dreaming of for the blank living room wall. Feeling a mix of pride and nerves, I decided it was time to show off what I had built. I texted the family group chat inviting everyone over for dinner to celebrate my new chapter in life. Saturday evening arrived fast, and Quinn showed up 2 hours early with a bottle of red and her usual energy. She rolled up her sleeves the moment she stepped inside, claiming the kitchen counter as her station while I boiled water for fresh pasta dough I had rolled out that morning. Quinn chopped tomatoes for the salad with precision from years of styling food shoots, tossing in cucumbers, olives, red onions, and a drizzle of balsamic she pulled from her bag. I whisked eggs for the tiramisu base folded in mascarpone until silky, then soaked ladyfingers in strong espresso. The oven timer dinged for garlic bread brushed with butter and parsley, and Quinn slid the tray in while humming an old pop song from our school days. We set the oak table with white plates, cloth napkins I had sewn from linen scraps, and mismatched wine glasses Quinn insisted added character. The vanilla candle flickered, filling the room with warmth, and she adjusted the pendant lights to highlight the mountain silhouette through the window. My sister arrived next, carrying a second bottle of Pinot and hugging me tight at the door. This condo fits your style, perfectly minimal, but with that edge and the mountain view could double as a runway backdrop, she said, slipping off her blazer and helping Quinn plate the salad into a wooden bowl. We chatted about her latest case, a messy divorce involving hidden offshore accounts, until the doorbell rang again. My brother walked in 20 minutes late, shrugging off a new leather jacket that screamed $800, his cologne hitting the air before he did. He nodded at everyone, grabbed the end seat without offering to help, and started scrolling his phone. Dad Gerald followed close behind, loosening his tie from a retirement golf game, his face flushed from the drive. Mom Brenda bustled in with a store-bought apple pie just in case, kissed my cheek, complimented the garlic aroma, and settled next to Dad. We passed the pasta around, twirling forks into the creamy Alfredo sauce flecked with basil, and conversation stayed light at first. Recent rainfall. Greening the trails, a new brewery downtown, Quinn sharing a funny shoot mishap with a runaway dog model. My sister laughed, topping off glasses while Mom asked about my latest design pitch to a sustainable brand out of Charlotte. Dad nodded along, cutting into his second helping of bread until the mood shifted. Midway through the main course, Dad set his fork down with a deliberate clink that silenced the table. "Sawyer needs this condo," he stated, flat-out, eyes fixed on me. He just ended things with his girlfriend of 3 years and lost his sales job last month. He deserves a stable spot to get back on his feet. The words landed heavy. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, the sauce turning bitter. "I've been paying for this place myself month after month," I replied, keeping my voice steady. Dad waved it off. "Give it to him. You can manage, find something temporary that suits your flexible schedule." He leaned back, arms crossed. Mom leaned forward, tone soft but firm. "Family puts sons first. It's how we've always done things, and it keeps the line strong." My brother nodded along, smirking slightly as he reached for more bread. Quinn shot me a wide-eyed look, her hand pausing over the wine pour. My sister cleared her throat but stayed quiet. The tension thickened, the candlelight flickering shadows. Dad pushed further, voice rising. "Sign the papers next week or forget about any inheritance, it's that simple." Heat rushed to my face, the view blurring as anger overrode politeness. Quinn mouthed no from her seat, but I was already moving. I pushed back my chair with a scrape. "This is my home," I said, voice cutting through the tension before turning and walking straight to the bedroom, the door clicking shut behind me with finality. The next morning, my phone lit up with notifications before I even poured coffee. 32 messages flooded in from extended family, cousins, and aunts I had not spoken to in months, all echoing the same pressure. One read, "Let your brother have it. He's the man of the family now." Another insisted, "Men need a solid home base to build from. Don't be selfish." I scrolled through the chain, each text piling on guilt like layers of unwanted fabric, until I silenced the group and set the device face down. Quinn had crashed on the couch after everyone left, and she stirred now, rubbing her eyes as she padded into the kitchen. She poured herself a mug without asking, sensing the storm from my expression, and leaned against the counter while I stared out at the clearing fog. A knock came mid-morning, soft but insistent. Mom Brenda stood on the doorstep with a Tupperware of homemade brownies, her smile tight as she stepped inside, uninvited. She placed the container on the island, peeling back the lid to reveal fudgy squares dusted with powdered sugar. "Thought you might need comfort after last night," she said, avoiding my gaze while arranging napkins. Quinn excused herself to the balcony, giving us space, but I caught her raised eyebrow through the glass. Mom sat on a stool, folding her hands. "Your dad started a savings fund for Sawyer when he turned 18, put in $20,000 over the years for emergencies." She spoke like reciting a grocery list, eyes fixed on the brownies. The revelation hit me sideways, a hidden seam I never knew existed. "Why didn't I get anything like that?" I asked, voice low but direct. Mom shifted, picking at a crumb. "Girls manage differently, always have your independent." Her answer dodged the core, circling back to old excuses without addressing the imbalance. My phone buzzed again, this time a call from my sister. I answered on speaker so Quinn could hear from the doorway. "Hey, I pulled some bank alerts this morning," she said, her lawyer tone kicking in. "Sawyer withdrew $10,000 last month alone, charged it to a Louis Vuitton store in Atlanta for a monogram trunk." The detail painted a picture far from desperation, luxury luggage for someone supposedly broke. Quinn mouthed seriously as she rejoined us inside, brownie in hand. The pieces clicked unevenly in my mind. If he had access to that kind of cash for designer bags, the story about needing stability crumbled. Mom fidgeted, sensing the shift, and stood to leave with a quick hug that felt obligatory. "Think about family," she murmured before slipping out. Quinn waited until the door closed, then shook her head. "That fund explains a lot. But the withdrawal? He's not hurting like they claim." Doubt rooted deeper, sprouting questions about what else lay hidden. Grandpa Tom, my mom's dad, who passed 5 years ago, had left boxes of personal items in my parents' garage. Old photos, trinkets, things Mom said were just clutter. I grabbed my keys, telling Quinn I needed answers beyond words. The drive to their suburban house took 20 minutes, traffic light on a Sunday. I parked in the familiar driveway, walked around to the side door they never locked, and headed straight for the storage shelves stacked with labeled bins. Dust motes danced in the dim light as I pulled down the one marked Tom, Misk. The lid creaked open under the garage bulb's weak glow, and as the dust settled, layers of yellowed newspaper came into view, carefully wrapped around what I hoped would still be Grandpa Tom's cherished keepsakes from decades past. I gently peeled back the top sheet, my fingers brushing against a small velvet pouch that felt lighter than I remembered from those childhood afternoons when Grandpa would let me wind the family heirlooms and listen to his stories. When I opened it, my heart sank. The pouch was empty, no gold pocket watch, with its etched Roman numerals and that familiar tiny scratch from a long-ago drop. Beside it sat a faded satin-lined ring box, once home to Grandma's silver wedding band she wore every single day until arthritis made it impossible. I lifted the lid, expecting the cool metal against my skin, but again, nothing, just hollow space where history should have been. The realization hit slowly: these containers meant to protect treasures now held only absence. Tucked deeper beneath the wrapping paper, almost hidden as if forgotten in a hurry, lay a manila folder with edges curled from years of humidity in the garage. I pulled it out and flipped it open, revealing a stack of receipts held together by a rusted paperclip that flaked red onto my fingers. The top document stopped me, cold, a pawnshop receipt dated 8 months earlier, clearly stating the gold pocket watch had been appraised at $15,000, but sold for just $5,000 in cash. My brother's looping signature sprawled across the bottom in blue ink, the shop's bold stamp sealing the transaction like a verdict. My breath caught as I turned to the next page, another receipt from the same local pawnbroker, this one for the silver wedding band traded away for $4,000 with a scribbled note in the margin, urgent cash needed. The date lined up perfectly with a weekend he had told everyone he was job hunting out of town. Before I could process the betrayal fully, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from my sister with a single attachment. I opened the PDF right there in the dim light, the file simply titled Sawyer CC Summary, and as I scrolled, page after page of credit card statements unfolded like a map of reckless choices. Highlighted charges jumped out: $3,000 at a rooftop bar in Charlotte one wild weekend, another $4,000 on luxury online fashion drops, $2,000 more for round-trip tickets to Vegas, complete with hotel suite upgrades. The total balance sat heavy at $32,000, interest piling on like fabric bolts in a cluttered studio. Her note at the end was short and direct: pulled this legally through a contact, use it wisely. Quinn had followed me over after casually mentioning she needed some fresh air, and now she stood close, reading over my shoulder with a sharp intake of breath at the numbers glowing on the screen. The garage felt colder suddenly, the chill seeping through my jeans as I ignored it and dialed my brother on speaker, hitting record the moment the call connected. He picked up on the third ring, the background filled with clinking glasses and muffled chatter from what sounded like a busy cafe. "What's going on?" he asked lightly. "Mom said you stormed out last night." I kept my voice calm, measured. "Why did you sell Grandpa's watch and Grandma's wedding ring?" A long pause stretched across the line, then a dismissive laugh. "Those old things. They were just collecting dust in a box. I needed money to keep life going, to actually live a little." His words brushed off generations of family meaning as if they were nothing, and the recording captured every careless syllable. I hung up before the anger could take over, slipping the phone back into my pocket and neatly stacking the receipts into a single pile. Quinn reached into her keychain and pulled out a spare flash drive, the kind she always carried for backing up photo shoots, and handed it to me without a word. I plugged it into my laptop, which I had balanced on an old toolbox nearby, and began transferring everything high-resolution photos I snapped right then of the empty pouch and ring box under the phone's flash scans of both pawn receipts, using Dad's dusty printer in the corner, the full PDF from my sister, and the freshly recorded audio file labeled with the exact date and time. The progress bar filled steadily, turning scattered proof into a complete, undeniable digital package. Dust clung to my fingertips as I closed the manila folder and gently placed the empty containers back where they belonged, though now they carried a different weight, evidence of loss rather than legacy. Quinn zipped the storage bin shut with a quiet finality, while I slid the flash drive into my jacket pocket, the small plastic device cool against my skin, like a key to the truth. With everything secured, the path to confrontation felt not just possible, but necessary. Friday evening came, and Dad's text demanded a family meeting at their house by 7 sharp. I arrived with the laptop tucked under my arm, stepping into a living room staged like a formal tribunal, the worn leather couch reserved for Mom and Dad's favorite recliner claimed by my brother, my sister, perched on the ottoman with a yellow legal pad balanced on her knee. Quinn waited in her car outside as backup engine idling low in the driveway, texting me a quick thumbs-up emoji. The air carried the faint scent of Mom's potpourri, masking the tension that crackled before anyone spoke. Dad wasted no time once I sat on the remaining dining chair, sliding a crisp manila folder across the polished coffee table. Sign the transfer papers tonight. Willow, this condo goes to Sawyer. End of discussion. The document stared up at me, pre-filled with my name, property details, and a glaring blank signature line beside a notary stamp. I flipped open the laptop instead, connecting to their flat-screen television with a quick HDMI cable from my bag. The screen flickered to life as the first slide filled the wall, a close-up photo of the gold pocket watch chain coiled like a question mark against black velvet Roman numerals sharp under the flash. Next came the pawn receipt, magnified $15,000 appraisal slashed through to $5,000 payout in crisp bills. My brother's looping signature enlarged for emphasis with the shop's embossed stamp bold across the bottom. I clicked forward, displaying the printed email chain negotiating the silver ring's sale for $4,000. The pawnbroker's reply, time-stamped cash today please, in casual font. The final file opened the credit summary PDF, red circles drawn around bar tabs from upscale Charlotte lounges, online splurges at high-end retailers, and Vegas round-trip flights, with hotel upgrades. The running total climbing to $32,000 in spiraling debt. Silence thickened, forks pausing mid-air from the snack tray Mom had set out. Then the recorded call played through the television speakers, my brother's voice filling the space, casual and unapologetic, against the room's sudden stillness. I sold them for party money. Who cares about dusty junk anyway? He shifted uncomfortably in the recliner, now face flushing under the overhead lamp. Light legs crossed and uncrossed, but no denial followed as the audio looped back to silence. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling instantly as she recognized the ring projected larger than life. That was Grandma's wedding band. She never took it off, not even to shower. Her voice cracked mid-sentence, shoulders shaking while she clutched a crumpled tissue from the side table, mascara streaking faintly down one cheek. Dad's complexion drained to ash, eyes locked on the debt total scrolling across the screen. You burned through every dollar I set aside for you. The question landed heavy, directed at my brother, with a father's disbelief turning to quiet fury. My brother shrugged with a half-smile that faltered under the combined glare, mumbling something about temporary fun that dissolved into the carpet. My sister leaned forward on the ottoman, pen poised to interject legally with precedent cases, but I raised a hand to stop her. The evidence spoke clearly enough without courtroom theatrics. I closed the laptop with a soft snap that echoed in the hush. I'm keeping the condo, I stated, standing to meet their stares evenly. This family ends for me here. The words settled final, no room for negotiation or tears. I gathered the HDMI cable with deliberate calm, slipped the computer back into its protective sleeve, nodded once to my sister, and walked out without another glance. The front door closed firmly behind me, porch light casting my shadow long across the lawn. 6 months passed quietly in the condo I had fought so hard to keep, and while the mountain view outside remained unchanged, the world beyond its windows had shifted dramatically for those who once demanded it. My brother soon found collectors at his door, relentless in their pursuit of the $32,000 he owed from nights of excess he could no longer afford. The Jeep, once his pride and a gift from Dad, appeared on a local selling app at a fraction of its value, the proceeds swallowed almost immediately by minimum payments that barely slowed the growing interest. With no steady income, he had been dismissed from 2 short-term jobs. After repeated absences, he turned to late-night delivery shifts, navigating Asheville's winding roads in a borrowed hatchback, while his once-envied wardrobe gathered dust in a paid storage locker he struggled to maintain. The friends who had filled his passenger seat vanished as quickly as the cash, leaving him in a small rental where the quiet pressed in heavier than any debt notice. Dad, who used to rise early for coffee, and the newspaper, now paced the hallway at odd hours, the creak of floorboards marking sleepless nights filled with regret over choices that favored one child at the expense of another. He avoided the golf course altogether, spending mornings instead reviewing old financial records, his eyes tracing numbers that no longer added up to fairness. Mom began regular sessions with a therapist specializing in family patterns, sitting in a calm office, where she slowly unraveled years of beliefs about duty and gender that had shaped every decision. Her messages to me grew sparse, simple holiday greetings, a shared recipe, until they faded entirely, like echoes losing strength. My sister met me one afternoon on the condo balcony, the autumn light soft across the peaks, as she spoke with the steady certainty of someone who had seen too many broken trusts in her work. "Cutting contact isn't running away," she said, her voice blending with the wind through the trees. "It's the shield that lets you keep what you've earned, protect it without apology." Those words anchored me, giving shape to the silence I had already chosen. Quinn became my constant through the recalibration, showing up with sunrise yoga mats or late-night takeout, helping me transform the spare room into a design studio where sketches turned into contracts. My freelance portfolio caught the attention of a growing Asheville sustainable brand, evolving into a full-time role with benefits and a salary that finally closed the chapter on old loans. I changed my number the week the offer came in, blocked every family contact with a single tap, and felt the condo settle deeper into being truly mine walls that held only my future. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridges, Quinn raised a glass of sparkling water on the same couch where everything had nearly been lost. 8 years of sweat, skipped meals, and every sacrifice. Now you're free, right here where you belong. We clinked the soundlight and certain a promise kept. The truth emerged: simply 8 years of grind were never meant for surrender. Walking away from entitlement is not selfishness, it is self-respect, stitched one determined day at a time. Sawyer's isolation, Dad's regret, Mom's therapy, all were the inevitable outcomes of a system that rewarded without responsibility. If this story moved you, thank you sincerely for listening to the very end. Share below what part resonated most. Like, comment, subscribe.